Discover the shocking truths of Job's story, 7 secrets that will haunt you forever. In a quiet town hidden behind rolling hills, whispers of a figure named Job echoed through the dusty streets. Stories of his unbearable suffering and undying faith twisted through the air like a summer whirlwind, leaving chills in their wake. The very name Job struck fear into the hearts of the superstitious. He was not just a man, he was a living paradox, a symbol of pain wrapped in resilience. People said he had lost everything in a single night: his wealth, his health, and even his beloved family. What could possibly drive a man to endure such torment? What dark secrets lay behind his tragic tale? Those who dared to delve deeper soon discovered more than they bargained for. They spoke of strange occurrences that surrounded him. Shadows danced in the corners of his home, flickering like candlelight in the dark. The air crackled with an electricity that felt almost alive. They noticed how the once vibrant flowers that grew around his house wilted to lifelessness. Could they be mourning the losses he suffered? What was it about Job that drew misfortune like a moth to flame? As eager onlookers ventured closer, they felt an unexplainable chill seep into their bones, filling them with apprehension and wonder. One fateful evening, an eerie silence fell over the town, thick and suffocating. Job sat alone on his porch, the sun dipping below the horizon, casting an orange hue that felt haunting against the shadows. His gaze was fixed on a path that seemed to shimmer with whispers of lost souls. Before long, a figure appeared, cloaked in darkness and cloaked in mystery. A flurry of gasps erupted from those who watched, hearts pounding in unison, as this stranger ventured toward Job, with a presence that seemed to both beckon and threaten. What deal was being struck in the twilight? What forbidden truths would soon unravel? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As night took full hold, shadows danced more aggressively. The atmosphere hung thick with secrets. The mysterious figure leaned closer, his voice barely a whisper, sending ripples down Job's spine. You think your suffering is over? He taunted. The weight of those words crashed onto Job like a wave, and in that moment, time stood still. What truth could possibly shatter the fragile hope he clung to? The townsfolk felt their pulses quicken, their breaths hitching, wondering what was to come next. The true horror of Job's story lingered like a fog, and those secrets promised to haunt them all forever. What darkness would awaken with the dawn? The air was thick with anticipation, like a storm about to unleash its fury. Job's heart raced as he looked into the eyes of the stranger, a whirlwind of emotions swirling inside him: fear, confusion, and a flicker of defiance. What do you mean? He demanded, his voice trembling but laced with determination. The stranger's lips curled into a sly smile, revealing pale teeth that glimmered in the fading light. Your suffering has merely begun. You have lost much, but the weight of your despair is far from complete. Each word dripped with malevolence, the promise of something darker lurking just beyond the shadows. Gasps rippled through those watching, their eyes wide with terror. This was more than just a conversation. It felt like a reckoning. They clung to the edges of their seats, or rather, the edges of the known world they thought they understood. People exchanged nervous glances, knowing too well that when you invite the unknown into your life, you risk unraveling everything. Leave me be, Job shouted, his voice breaking the thick silence. He stood, his stature rising against the intruder, a flicker of courage igniting within him. But as he did so, the stranger only chuckled deeply, a sound echoing into the night like a death knell. Do you think you can escape it? The figure stepped back, revealing a silhouette that seemed to stretch and shimmer as if reality itself was bending. You've already been marked, dear Job. The universe has set its sights on your soul, and it won't rest until every last drop of hope has been drained from you. Job staggered backward, a chill washing over him. The truth of those words sank in like a dagger, twisting painfully in his gut. Did he truly believe that he had faced the worst of his suffering? What if it was just the beginning? Questions raced through his mind like a hurried stampede. What lay ahead? What were the depths of his torment yet to be revealed? The townsfolk were entranced, their fears magnified, captivated by the chilling exchange. They could feel the electric tension as the shadows grew longer, and a sudden gust of wind whipped through the porch, carrying with it a scent of decay, an omen of what was to come. Why would you do this to me? Jabez's voice faltered, raw and exposed, as he fell to his knees. It felt like the very ground beneath him had become a pit of despair. What have I done to deserve this? Oh, Job, the figure cooed, stepping closer. It's not about what you've done. It's about what you will endure. The true test of your faith awaits. You've survived losing everything. But can you face the truth of your own soul? A darkness loomed within those cryptic words. Just then, an unnatural caw broke the night. An owl, perched on a distant tree, its huge, piercing eyes watching intently. Time froze as a sense of dread overwhelmed the crowd. Just as they thought they understood, a sudden realization rattled them. Jabez's fate was somehow intertwined with their own. The stranger's laughter echoed, a chilling sound that sent shivers racing down spines. Tomorrow will bring revelations. Prepare yourselves for the truth you cannot escape. As he faded into the night, the weight of his words loomed larger, pressing against each heart. They gasped, feeling the gravity shift beneath their feet. What awaited them at dawn? Job finally raised his gaze, peering into the hollow darkness. The world felt heavier now, as if it held the burden of countless untold stories. Could he truly muster the strength to face whatever horror was to unfold? Beneath the shroud of night, the town friendlessly awaited the light of dawn, full of uncertain dread. What would emerge from the shadows once the sun rose? Would it be hope or horror? Only time would tell. The night dragged on, heavy with uncertainty, wrapping the town in an oppressive silence. Job remained on the porch, his knees sinking into the wooden planks, deeply connected to the earth, yet feeling miles away from it. Every breath was a silent plea, a desperate wish that dawn would not come. The town felt different now, shadows creeping along the cobblestones, almost alive, pulsating with the echo of the stranger's words. Job could see it in their faces. Fear had pooled in their eyes, ready to overflow. They were trapped, ensnared in the same dark web the stranger had spun. As the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon, a grating sound broke the stillness. It was a low, mournful wailing, a sound that seemed to come from the deepest parts of the earth. Jabez's heart sank as he recognized it. The town's bell, the one that hadn't rung since the last calamity struck them, was tolling again, signaling the beginning of something grim. What does it mean? A woman cried out from the crowd, her hands covering her face in horror. What does it mean? Her voice quivered, echoing the terror that had begun to seep into everyone's bones. Job struggled to his feet, squinting against the harsh light, trying to comprehend. The bell's tolling, it didn't sound like a warning. It felt worse. It was a lament, a mourning for what was yet to come. He could see that the townsfolk were already sifting through their memories, searching for an anchor as the present spiraled deeper into chaos. Listen, another voice broke the murmur, a man who stepped forward, clenching his fists. If we let fear take over, we'll be lost. We cannot let what was said dictate our hearts. The crowd shifted uneasily, torn between the man's resolve and their own uncertainty, but Job knew. He felt the weight of the stranger's words coiling tighter around him. It isn't just words. Look at what he did to us. He turned our own fears against us, and now it's too late to run. His voice surged, ringing with urgency. Moments passed like centuries as the air thickened, blending fear with an impossible sense of despair. The shadows of doubts cast over the townsfolk grew long. Had the stranger spoken the truth? Could they unearth the horrors hiding in their souls? As Job steadied himself, adrenaline replacing his earlier trepidation, he heard it, a whisper, an echo of a memory that flitted at the edges of his mind like a shadow. Face the truth of your own soul. The words felt like chains binding him to the past, dragging him down into dark waters of regret. And suddenly, the forgotten memories poured in, overwhelming him. Images of laughter turned into tears, promises he couldn't fulfill, moments of joy that had twisted into despair. Each memory sent a wave of pain crashing over him, and he staggered back, clutching his head, gasping for air. In that instant, a collective gasp arose from the crowd. They could see it the way his face contorted as if he were wrestling with unseen demons. Fear morphed into panic, and whispering shadows grew bolder, creeping closer to the edge of their consciousness. Then, from the back of the crowd, a piercing scream shattered the tense air. It's happening. The disheveled figure of an old man broke free, stumbling toward Job. We're not just cursed. We're chosen for the reckoning. We must face our truth together. Job felt every eye bore down on him. Regardless of his own fears, the weight of a multitude pressed upon his shoulders. Could he lead them? Did he have the courage to face the revelations ahead? Right then, it became crystal clear. They weren't merely spectators. They were part of a tapestry that bound them to one another and to the horrors they had yet to confront. As the first rays of sunlight brushed against the horizon, illuminating the darkness, an ominous shudder rolled through the ground, echoing the bell's final chime. But this only fueled Job's resolve. Together, he echoed, his voice rising. We'll face our truths. We'll refuse to be devoured by this darkness. As tension crackled in the air, the ground beneath trembled with potential. What truths lay in wait for them? Would unity forge a path to salvation, or would their reckoning lead to chaos? The dawn had just begun, but the real test of their souls loomed, ready to unveil itself. The murmurs of the crowd grew louder, filling the air like a brewing storm. Panic sliced through Job's heart as he locked gazes with the old man, who seemed to be a vessel of all their fears. What truth? Job shouted, desperation clawing at him. What do you know? The old man's eyes were wild, filled with the fury of a storm. The truth is buried deep within, he replied, his voice rising above the chaos. Each one of you carries a shadow, a dark reflection of your soul. If you don't confront it, it will consume you. Job's breath quickened. Consume us? What are you saying? The bell's relentless tolling now reverberated through his bones. It became a metronome guiding them deeper into despair. The crowd began to fidget, uncertainty folding over them like a shroud. Tell us. A voice cried, wavering. What shadows do we carry? The question hung in the air, heavy with dread. I can't tell you, said the old man, his face shadowed with regret. That's for each of you to uncover. But know this, if the truth doesn't scare you, then it wasn't the truth at all. His voice cracked under the weight of his own words, resonating with the fear that surged through the crowd. Job felt like he was sinking. His knees trembled again as memories fought to surface. Each recollection burned in his mind. Choices he made, paths left untraveled. No more, he yelled, clamping his hands to his head. You can't ask us to go into the darkness. But the crowd was awakening, peeling back the layers of their own pasts in a terrifying chorus. I lost my daughter, a woman sobbed. I should have saved her. I let my greed and envy fester, a man murmured, voice trembling. I betrayed my brother. The confession spiraled, each fragment of pain adding to the cacophony. Job clenched his fists, feeling the weight of their shared anguish. These were not just stories of regret. These were chains forged by their choices, binding them all together deeper than any physical bond. Then, like a sudden gust of wind, silence fell abruptly. Even the bell quieted its tolls, replaced with an eerie calm that settled over the crowd. Job lifted his head slowly, eyes scanning the somber faces before him. Now it's time, said the old man, breaking the stillness. It's time for each of you to face the shadows lurking inside. His eyes gleamed with an unsettling clarity. You will see them reflected in one another. They won't be easy to face. Before he could finish, the ground rumbled again, the tremors stronger this time, casting uneasy glances among the townsfolk. They could feel it, the very earth was unsettled, mirroring their inner turmoil. With a swift motion, Job took a step back, feeling the pull of the chasm opening within him. We can't ignore this, he shouted, the fire igniting within him again. We can use this moment that's a shared truth. We've all lost something, but we can also rise from it. We can hold on to hope. The fire in his words ignited something in the eyes of the others, but just as quickly, a dark shadow loomed over them, a heavy, pulsing presence that felt alive. And then it struck them all in unison. Shadows were emerging, coiling and shifting among the crowd, taking shape behind each person. Dark forms rose, twisted past horrors brought to life, ready to haunt them. Jabba's heart raced. No, no, he cried, instinctively stepping back. The crowd gasped in unison, dread spilling out as they caught glimpses of their own buried pasts manifesting in front of them, bodies of mistakes, souls painfully trapped in their fateful choices. Would they confront these specters, or would they run? The realization hit Job. They were at the precipice of salvation or doom. Together, Job shouted, desperation flooding his voice. We must stand together, facing what we've hidden. But the shadows inched closer, hissing through the air, igniting fear that twisted tighter around their hearts. Did they have the strength to confront what lay before them? The answers would come, but the shadows were restless, hungry. Would the dawn deliver them from despair, or drag them into an even greater darkness? With every breath, Job knew they were standing on the edge of something monumental, ready or not. The reckoning had begun, and it would demand more than they anticipated. Job felt the shadows swirl around him, thick and suffocating. Heart pounding, he opened his mouth, but no sound came. The crowd stood mesmerized, paralyzed by their own despair as those dark figures twisted and curled, mimicking their past sins with cruel precision. Face them, he finally shouted, his voice breaking through the suffocating silence. Face what you've done. Only then can we move beyond this. He could sense the doubt creeping in, could see it in their eyes, glistening with tears filled with horror. Why should we face these nightmares? A woman's voice wavered from the back, trembling with fear. What if we can't? What if they swallow us whole? Job turned to her, desperation mounting in his chest. We have to try? These shadows are not just manifestations, they're parts of us. They want us to remember, to learn. As if mocking him, a shadow shifted closer to the woman, its form solidifying into a ghostly figure of a child. She gasped, stunned to see the face of a little girl, her daughter, lost to an accident years ago. A strangled sob escaped her as she fell to her knees. No, I can't. Job stepped forward, delivering a weak smile mixed with understanding. You can. You must. Don't let it control you. But the shadows were relentless. Another man stepped into view, his own specter a jagged reflection of his shameful betrayal. What can we do? He shouted, voice tinged with despair. How do we overcome these shadows? No one has ever escaped their ghosts. By owning our mistakes. Job called back, voice gaining strength. By admitting the truth. We can change the outcome. Accepting our past is the only way to reclaim our future. The old man's voice returned, a haunting echo beneath the chaos. Fear holds you, but truth is your weapon. Face it. Break the chains. The crowd stirred, a mix of fear and defiance igniting in them. Shadows shrank back momentarily, sensing the shift in energy. The glow of defiance flickered like a flame. In a sudden rush, Job turned to face the gathering gloom and called out, I've lost my way. I let doubt seep into my heart. I didn't trust myself, and I let others hold me back. The crowd quieted. His admission hung in the air like a weighty secret. One by one, others began to step forward. I was selfish, stated an old man, shivering with the vulnerability of truth. I stole and destroyed lives. I abandoned my family, a young woman added, her eyes fierce now. I was too busy chasing my dreams to care about them. Job's heart quickened as he saw more figures step into the light, confronting their own shadows. The murmurs grew louder, hearts daring to hope as their confessions formed a collective pulse of rebellion. Painful shards of each soul's past danced in the flickering darkness, but they began intertwining, weaving a tapestry of shared pain and resilience. What is happening? Job felt an unfamiliar warmth creeping through him, as if a door had opened somewhere deep within. The old man nodded, his visage brightening as though he bore witness to something ancient and powerful unfolding. They see now. Each confession binds them together in unity against the darkness. The shadows recoiled, but they weren't vanishing. They were straining against the burgeoning light of shared truth and solidarity. Job felt the rising tide of emotion, a wave ready to crash against the darkness. But deep within, a flicker of doubt nagged at him. Was this enough? Would they truly embrace the light, or was it just a facade? As the shadows writhed restlessly, hungry for their fear, a chilling laugh erupted from the depths of the crowd. You think this can save you? It scoffed. You can't escape the truth forever. Job's heart sank at the voice, familiar yet twisted, a lurking dread crawling under his skin. A sense of impending doom draped over them all. What if the shadows weren't just figments of their consciences, but something far more sinister, something waiting for them to falter? With their resolve wavering, the weight of their secrets threatened to crush them once more. Would they rise and push through, or would the shadows tighten their grip, pulling them back into the depths of despair from which there was no escape? Job took a deep breath, steeling himself. We can't give in, he shouted, the felt energy of the crowd swirling around him. We need to face the truth, no matter how painful. The battle is just beginning. As the shadows writhed and hissed, the air grew thick with tension. Would they band together, or would fear drag them down into the swirling abyss? The reckoning was only just beginning, and the line between hope and despair was perilously thin. What awaited them on the other side? The air grew thick, suffocating even, as Job stood at the forefront of the crowd, sweat trickling down his brow. The shadows surged forward like a tidal wave, each one more grotesque than the last, twisting the very essence of their fears. A collective gasp echoed as the deepest regrets of the townsfolk manifested, faces resembling loved ones lost, dreams crushed underfoot. Look at them, Job yelled, waving a hand behind him. Every shadow you see is a part of you. They can't harm you unless you let them. His heart raced, an insistent drumbeat echoing within the confines of his chest. The woman who had been paralyzed by grief found the strength to stand, a trembling defiance lacing her voice. But they remind me of my failure. What if I never recover? They do remind us of everything painful, he conceded, but they're also the guides. They can lead us to freedom or keep us trapped. This is your choice. A flicker of understanding sparked in the crowd. They began to shift, steeling themselves against the anguish that enveloped them. The shadows seized on this moment of hesitation, bursting forth with angry snarls. Lies. A figure howled, its shadowy form morphing into a terrifying resemblance of themselves. You think you control your past? The mirth in its voice sent chills down the spines of the onlookers. Job pushed through the mass of bodies, adrenaline taking over. Face it, he screamed, voice cracking under the strain. Admit it. You have to look it dead in the eye. The old man stepped forward, gripping his cane tightly. I was a coward, he confessed, bellowing each word as if it were a salvation unto itself. I let myself be led astray, hurting those I loved. As the moment hung heavily in the air, shadows recoiled. A spark ignited within the crowd. Someone else stepped up. I lied. I pretended everything was okay when it wasn't. A woman's voice rang out with palpable intensity, her confession creating ripples through the gathering. Another joined. I believed the whispers of success over the aching hearts of my family. I chased the money like it would fill this void. One by one, more souls emerged from the shroud of despair, spouting their truths like flame, driving the shadows back. With each admission, the figures grew fainter, yet their laughter still echoed, mocking with sinister joy. But then, from the corner of the anxious crowd, a deeper shadow curled, overcoming them with an icy grip. It took form, a massive silhouette with features grotesquely familiar. Job's own dark past manifested, embodying doubt and insecurity. You think you can defy me? It boomed, voice a terrifying echo deep within him. You failed before, you'll fail again. Job staggered back, feeling the cold weight pressing against his heart. Panic clawed at his throat. Was he strong enough to confront the darkest version of himself? No, Job shouted back, his voice full of newfound strength. You're not me. You are just my shadow, a fear I create. The crowd watched, breath held in collective tension as they rallied behind Job's determination. A realization washed over him. Strength wasn't about banishing shadows, but finding light within. All our truths are the key, he urged them. They illuminate the dark corners. We take back our power. A wave of emotion surged through the assemblage. The sharing of their secrets had spun a tapestry of bravery, hearts pounding with the rhythm of liberation. But as the growth of their collective light rose, the darker figure let out a terrible shriek, a sound so full of malice that it made the ground tremble. You'll regret this. When the truth cuts too deep, the shadow's revenge is inevitable. In that haunting moment, Job realized the shadows weren't just shadows, they were enemies with plans and intentions waiting to unleash fury if they faltered now. The dread had transformed into a promise of vengeance, and Job felt the weight of impending confrontation settle heavily upon him. As the shadows slinked back momentarily, he could almost taste the tension the abyss hungered for them. Would they discover strength and unity against the pending darkness, or fall prey to the extensive web of their own making? Job squared his shoulders, rallying his thoughts, knowing their battle had only just begun. What awaited on the other side could either lead to salvation or damnation. And in that uncertainty, hope flickered with hesitation that it was a battle of shadows for the soul. Would they rise together or fall apart in the final hour? The answer lay just beyond the murky precipice. The ground shuddered beneath them, a pulse of dark energy rippling through the earth. Job's heart raced faster, desperation clawing at him as the crowd drew closer to the precipice of fear. In that moment, when hope flickered dimly, the darkness roared back with a vengeance, the shadows sharpening into fierce, defining forms. "Look closer, Job," the shadow of his past taunted, its voice slicing through the charged silence like a blade. "You think these people have strength? They're nothing without you, just as they were before. You're bound to fail them. You're bound to fail yourself." Ripping his eyes from the grotesque visage, Job turned instead to the crowd. Faces distorted not just with fear, but with confusion. They were tethered to him, yet he felt the weight of their collective sins clinging unbearably. Each grimace, a reminder of their own failures. The shadows shifted beside him, thickening, quietly seething, ready to pounce. "Don't listen," Job shouted, his voice rising above the cacophony. "Fear feeds these shadows. We're not alone. Together, we can overcome this." The old man stepped forward again, shaking yet steadfast. "Yes, right. We have to dig deep." He waved his cane, garnering the last bits of courage. "It's time we reveal the truths we've buried." The shadows writhed closer, tightening their grip on the townsfolk, the mocking laughter echoing around them. The woman from before, still trembling, nodded slowly as if reciting her victory mantra. I abandoned my child once, thinking that leaving would be best. But she needed me." Each word sparked a fire, illuminating hidden recesses of pain in others. Another man who had been watching from the side bellowed, "And I abandoned my dreams for a job I hate." A fire flickered in people's eyes, gaining momentum. Job felt a wave of power surging through him, stronger than the last. Each admission from the crowd chipped away at the darkness, the shadows flickering as if in direct response to their vulnerabilities. Yet the shadow of his past hulked large, still looming with a grim smile. "Pathetic little truths won't save you. What you've hidden is far worse." The voice grew deeper, richer with menace. "You think those confessions can shield you? I know your biggest regret. Job, do they know?" Job's chest tightened. Panic flared anew. He squeezed his eyes shut, refusing to engage with the insinuation, but a flame of doubt licked at his resolve. Would revealing everything only incite more fear? The crowd began whispering to one another, uneasy murmurs weaving through the assembly of souls. Doubt was creeping back in, shadows intertwining with growing distrust. "Your weakness spreads like fire." The creature roared, its form shuddering as if anticipating success. "What if I unveiled your deepest sin to everyone? What if I told them why you failed?" The figure leaned closer, a sinister grin sprawled wide, showing jagged teeth. "Shut up," a voice shouted defiantly from the masses. Job turned. A young girl, voice steady, stood with fierce eyes. "Don't let it manipulate you. We know our truths. We know you want to drag us down." The momentum was shifting. Job felt it. The fires of courage reignited, each glare fueled by honesty and vulnerability. The raw energy vibrated. "Yes, keep sharing," Job cried out, and one by one, brave souls continued to step forward, each truth bringing them light. But in the dark, Job felt the presence of the creature's intent. As more voices rose, so did the panic in the depths of shadows, restless and thrashing as if cornered. "Fools, you think power lies in your confessions? Soon, you'll regret every word." It seethed, its tone now a venomous whisper. Job locked his gaze on the figure shrouded in darkness, fear battling with determination. It was a relentless cycle, a prophecy of looming doom. The air was suffused with raw emotion, and the shadows began to quiver with rage, threatening to refocus their efforts on overwhelming the crowd once again. But as Jabez's heart pounded, he realized maybe revealing his own truth first was what they truly needed. Perhaps it wasn't just about freeing them, but about liberating himself. With a steadying breath, he took a step forward, ready to expose the very core of his darkness, the one shadow that had haunted him all his life. But just as he opened his mouth to admit the truth, a blinding flash erupted from the depths of the shadows, deafening screams piercing through the thickened air. What had he unleashed? What truth would explode from the shadows in retaliation? Would Job manage to vault this hurdle, or would it consume him entirely? Job's moment of confession bore dire consequences that were yet unknown. The light engulfed them, a burst of blinding intensity that squeezed the air from Job's lungs. He staggered back, feeling more like a pawn than a leader in that terrifying moment. The screams around him pierced the dark like shattering glass, each cry sending an electric jolt of fear coursing through the crowd. The shadows trembled violently, the grotesque faces twisting and twirling in chaotic dance, their sinister laughter now replaced by roars of anguish. Job's stomach churned. This was no ordinary confrontation, it was a cataclysm of fears colliding. The fear emanating from the crowd set the shadows on fire. He felt an urgent tug at his heart. "Job, we need you." It seemed to scream, the voices a blend of hope and desperation. With a jolt, he realized their collective faith was now fragile and wavering. Barely aware of his surroundings, he fought to stay grounded. "Your fears are weakness," a shadow growled, breaking his thoughts. The beast morphed into a ghastly figure, blacker than night, towering before him with dripping tendrils. It curled around him, a noose of pure malice. "Let go," Job bellowed, summoning remnants of strength from the depths of his spirit. "I won't let you take this away from us." But the creature chuckled darkly. "And what will you do, Job? Do you have the courage to admit your failures? The truths you hide?" It paused, relish evident in its voice. "Or will you let them consume you?" Job's insides twisted painfully. He yearned for the light, but the shadows lured him in with tempting whispers, the comfortable lies that had shielded him for so long. A flutter of realization surged through him. This battle was not solely about his past. It was about confronting the very boundaries he had built. "Enough," he shouted, eyes blazing with newfound clarity. "I will strip off this mask. I'll step into that light." The faces around him turned curious, eager, as whispers softened to attentive silence. "My name is Job. I ran from my problems." Each word weighed heavy, an anchor pulling him back to the depths he thought he left behind. "I hurt those I loved. I turned my back on my own son because I thought I was being brave, but I was just scared." Gasps rippled through the crowd, but they held still, captivated by the unexpected unveiling. More tendrils writhed toward him, latching on, the darkness sensing vulnerability, a weakness it could exploit. "Do you see the monster you've unleashed?" It hissed, its tone thick with satisfaction. "They will turn on you, Job." The crowd began to murmur, a wave of uncertainty washing over them, doubt intertwining with their growing resolve. "Look at him. How can we trust him?" The doubts echoed back at Job, sharp and potent. But one voice rose again, clear and steady, the girl who first stood against the dark. "We all make mistakes," she shouted, her tone unwavering. "Our truth brings us together." Each confession was a spark. A gazelle emerged from the shadows, stepping forward. "I had an affair to escape my loneliness. I thought it was love, but it was a betrayal." That ignited more flames in the crowd, stories unfolding like wildflowers breaking through cracks in pavement. "Together, we shine brighter," another man shouted, stepping out of the dark. "Our brokenness makes us real." Job could feel the energy swirling like a storm, a fusion of vulnerability carving a path through the darkness. It was working. But then, the creature raged loudly, its voice booming, crashing over the crowd like a tidal wave. "You think these confessions free you? You think they protect you from me?" Shadows pooled, unfurling into indiscernible shapes. Job gulped, dread coiling tight around his chest. Would their truths be enough? Would this wave of honesty stand tall against the monstrous whispers lingering in the shadows? The uncertainty hung heavy, as the darkness transformed, twisting spirals of fear and betrayal into something monstrous. The air crackled with tension, and Job's heart pounded a frenetic rhythm. Amidst the chaos, he wondered, would he find redemption, or would darkness pull them all down, together? Treading the thin line of fury and revelation, he braced for the inevitable storm behind that shrouded figure, a reckoning that could either forge or fracture them all. The shadows closed in, shimmering like ink, as Job's voice echoed through the chaos. Each confession sparked a flame, yet the creature lurked, weaving its darkness into the fabric of the night. Job's heart beat like a war drum, the rhythm urging him to act. "We are not alone," the girl called out again, her confidence buoying them all. "Together, our fears lose their power." She stepped boldly forward. The flickering light washed over her, and for a split second, Job could see the flickers of hope igniting in the audience around him. With each confession, the shadows grew restless, their forms becoming erratic, as if sensing the shift. "Fools," the beast hissed, tendrils whipping violently around it. "Your truth is a shackle. You think you stand united, but you're merely fumbling in the dark." It lunged, encompassing the girl in a swirling mass of nothingness, pulling her down. "No," Job screamed, adrenaline surging through him. "We will not be crushed." He pushed through the throng, gripping the air tight, rallying all his strength. "Job," someone cried, desperation lacing the voice. "Don't. You're risking everything." But there was no turning back. He had felt the warmth of honesty. He had seen how fractures could mend. "Let her go?" Job insisted. "Why should I?" The beast twisted the shadows tighter around the girl, who was gasping for breath, her eyes wide with disbelief. "She's merely a reflection of you. Weak, vulnerable, ready to shatter." Job's stomach tightened. The truth was chilling. Was he not just a part of that vulnerability? What if the darkness freed him from responsibility? But then he thought of the light, the faces that sought connection through their vulnerability. "I am not ashamed anymore." He thrust his heart out into the open. "I was scared, yes, but fear doesn't have to govern us." In that moment, energy surged from the crowd and electric unpredictability surged through them. Another voice broke through. "I lost my family, I lost hope." A man stepped forward, eyes wild. "But I found the strength in those who stood with me." The shadows twitched again, this time more uncertain. It was working. The creature's grip wavered, and for the first time, Job saw the terror in its eyes like a predator sensing its prey had teeth. "Yes, your truths are gathering." The creature spat, the shadows beginning to swirl back, as if retreating. "But they will topple. You are fragile beings whose courage will falter." Job would not let it take another life. He could feel the heat radiating from the confessions like a beacon, and it filled him with a fierce resolve. "Listen," he shouted, his voice slicing through despair. "Own your pain. Grab onto it, and use it. Together, we are a force." The crowd erupted. Words cascaded like a waterfall, each shared moment knitting them closer, binding wounds that once lacerated deeply. "I walked out on my family," another confessed. Shadows crackled, slithering back again. The girl, with renewed strength, joined another voice. "And I abandoned my dreams. But together, we can face who we are." Job saw it then. A flicker in each of their eyes, the resolve to fight back. The air crackled with a potent mix of fear and hope. "Are we afraid?" he asked, pulling the crowd along. "Or are we ready to stand as one, united against this?" "Together," they shouted, hands reaching toward the light that burst forth like dawn breaking through the night. As the shadows receded, Job felt a shift deep within himself. But even in their moment of triumph, an ominous howl echoed through the air. "Your truths bind you, but they lead to further betrayal." The creature spat venomously, its form contorting into something even more alarming, rising ominously like a dark wave. Job froze, realization flooding him. What more could it take from us? Just then, the shadows coalesced into a single point, twisting and writhing, revealing an image Job never anticipated. His son stepped forward from the depths of darkness, eyes hollow, barely visible, his expression a haunting mix of rejection and sorrow. Would the revelation shatter all the bonds they forged? That it's not. Over yet the words pulsed with dread, hanging thick in the air, as uncertainty spiraled deeper around them. What would this mean for Job's battle against the darkness? The air tugged, heavy with impending conflict. leaving Job to question whether he could face the truth he had run from all along. As the image of Job's son loomed before him, the world around him pressed tight, squeezing the very breath from his lungs. Hope and horror entwined like a wicked dance, twisting every emotion into a sharp knot in his chest. His heart raced. "No, you can't be here," Job gasped, panic clawing at him like a wild beast, desperate to flee. "I'm here, Dad." The figure stepped closer, an apparition flickering between shadow and light, his hollow gaze piercing through Job's very soul. "Face me. Face what you have done." The crowd gasped, the turmoil surging within them as they bore witness to this unveiling. Job could feel their anxious breaths, a mix of fear and betrayal filling the air. Every eye rested on him, the weight of their collective anxieties pressing down harder than ever. They were all wrapped in this moment, tied to him, just as every confession had weaved them together. "No," Job yelled, refusing to accept the truth. The pieces of his heart were splintering, cracking under the weight of the memories he had buried deep. "I can't. I failed you, I hurt you." With every word, darkness writhed and coiled around him, squeezing tighter. "It's not too late," his son's form flickered, voice both a plea and a command. "You have to own your truth. Show them the way." Job's chest tightened, a lump lodged in his throat. His son's face held no anger, just an ache that echoed Job's own. Each confession of pain they shared was now his burden, a haunting reminder of the father he wished he could be. "I didn't protect you," he whispered, an anguished tear escaping, quivering as it fell. "I let fear take the reins." Around him, the whispers of the crowd swirled, a gust of uncertainty that shifted like wild winds. Job felt their compassion coiling inward, fortifying him even while doubts flicked like candles in a tempest. "Now is the moment," Job shouted, the fire of determination igniting in his chest. He pivoted to the crowd, eyes bright with urgency. "My son carried this pain, and so have we all. We can't let our shadows consume us. We must uplift each other. Our confessions are our strength." A woman from the crowd stepped forward, her voice quaking yet resolute. "I lost my sister, and I pushed everyone away. I thought they would judge me." "Yes," Job cried, emboldened by her bravery. This is the truth that binds us. It tears the chains of isolation apart. We're not just sharing grief. We're forging strength." Job felt the shadows shudder, recoiling from the flickering light blossoming amidst the crowd. The figures twisted angrily, hunger emanating from them all at once. Job sensed the tension building. The final stand was near. "Remember," Job urged, every note of his voice clinging to desperation. "Remember the light in your confessions. Together, we rise above." One by one, others stepped forward. "I was consumed with greed," a young man confessed, hands shaking. "I neglected my loved ones. But I choose to fight." Each confession chipped away at the dark entity, causing it to thrash violently, shadows screaming in torment. Job felt warmth surge within their unity as hands reached out, gripping one another in solidarity. The darkness groaned, threatening to close in, but their collective honesty ignited a profound flame, and in that moment, they became a living beacon against the abyss of fire born not from denial, but from the raw power of truth.